Victorious FM, brought to you by Victorious Entrepreneurs. Here's your host, single mum, entrepreneur and brain injury survivor, Michelle Williams.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Victorious FM, where every week I'll be introducing you to inspiring women who have gone after their dreams and refused to give up even in the face of extreme adversity. We'll be diving into her victories and her defeats and discovering the lessons that she's learned along the way, all with the aim of inspiring you to step into your own unique power to create a business and life that you love. And this week I was joined by the amazing Jennifer Bronsnick from themindfulfamily.com. Jennifer is a licensed clinical social worker, holistic health coach, human design specialist, and creator of the Thriving Mama Blueprint, which helps mums heal their mind, body, and spirit from burnout. During this episode, we talked about human design and how understanding your chart can take you from surviving to thriving in your family, business, and your life. I found this interview with Jennifer so intriguing and inspiring, and I know that you will too. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Victorious FM, where I'm really delighted to introduce today Jennifer Bronsnick onto the show. Have I pronounced your name correctly, first of all?
Perfectly. You might be the only one.
I looked and I thought, oh no, because I normally would check with you beforehand. But I just want to thank you so much for joining us today, because as you know, this show is all about celebrating women's triumph over adversity. And I'm really interested in digging in to find out how sometimes our adversity takes us onto our entrepreneurial journey, and also what steps it takes, what characteristics do we need to go from victim to victorious entrepreneur. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your victorious story with us today, please, Jennifer.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I think this is wonderful what you are putting out in the world. These stories of hope and inspiration. So, thank you for having me. My story has unfolded over about 40 years now. I just had my 40th birthday. It's always been for me. When I was young, I had seizures.
Right.
And so that sort of was my, we'll call it the initiation into, oh my gosh, life has challenges.
Yeah, of course.
Life's not, not everyone has like perfect health or, something like that. And then, as I got older, I began to get bullied. I was a heavy kid. I was chubby. People would make jokes about me, and I became, very sensitive to what other people thought of me. Mm-hmm. And so, during these two challenges, the seizures, being overweight, which led to, I had some disordered eating as I got older, and sort of, exploring this idea of, what is it like to value yourself, and what is it like to feel empowered in your body, when you have these health conditions, or it's not as, you're not a supermodel. You weren't born with those genes. And so that led me into this career as a social worker. And that's where it all sort of, started to really unfold for me. So I got my master's in social work. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology. So I really, through my own struggles, I wanted to understand, why, why was I struggling? Like, it wasn't the seizure. It wasn't my being chubby. It was my mindset and my beliefs about those things that made me not good enough. That I was, listening to other people. Yeah. And so it just sort of, it exploded from there. Once you start exploring, the why about yourself, why you have certain behaviors, why you make certain choices, it just, every year I just, studied and learned and went deeper and, learned about nutrition and how that plays into our mental well-being and, herbs and, detoxing. So all these sort of like different things came into my life because of those initial challenges.
Yeah.
I think that the mindset that keeps you from that, like, why me?
Yeah.
Why was I born with this brain or this body or whatever it is?
Yeah.
To, like, how can I understand it? You know, one of my core strengths is a love of learning. And so, you know, how can I turn this into a learning opportunity, you know, about myself, about, like, what are other people doing, you know, when they have these issues? So I ended up working with children with chronic kidney disease, so kids with kidney transplants. And it was fascinating because some of the kids really struggled because they were in that place of why me.
Yeah.
There were some families that they were like, why not me? Why not me to go through this? You know, like, there's a reason, there's a bigger story around this challenge. And it was never about the diagnosis. It was always about their mindset, which I think is awesome. Like, that is, to me, so empowering.
Yeah. And I love that because it's kind of like, it's almost like, it's not actually what happens to us, but it's our response to that in a way, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
our reaction to that, because if you stay in that why me victim mindset, then, you know, things don't get better, basically, do they? You have to kind of focus on the positives, whatever positives they are. So I love that journey that you've gone through, almost of like self-discovery, and to understand that is just amazing.
Yeah. And I just want to say that, like, when you're going through it, it sucks. You know, there's a time, like, you don't have to always be in this positive place. Like, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to say, like, wow, I'm really struggling right now. Like, just this past, like, about a year ago, I'm, like I mentioned, I'm 40. And so my body's changing and my hormones are changing. And, you know, I've had different toxins in my body. And I was really struggling with a lot of anxiety. And really what I boiled down to this, you know, burnout syndrome. You know, some people might call it a nervous breakdown, but I don't really like that term so much. It was, you know, so I've recoined it as a burnout syndrome. And it was terrible when I was going through it. Like, there were moments of hopelessness. So, you know, it's okay to go through that. It's just like, I just never want to sit there. You know, I always want to say, okay, well, what can I do? So I hired a coach. I hired a functional medicine nutritionist.
Wow.
I explored my body and looked at, like, why. And I found out I had, like, excess copper from an IUD that I'd had, and maybe from my water pipes, who knows. I had a parasite, you know, all these things that you know, traditional medicine doesn't really look at, you know, like, to get to that root cause of, like, what was happening that was causing these symptoms. So, like, that was another point of, you know, a place in my life where, you know, it wasn't how I wanted it to be, you know, so it was, how can I take this, you know, strength of learning, and everybody has, like, your strength might be gratitude or curiosity, or zest. You know, there's, like, I think there's, you know, 50 different character strengths that, you know, we all have in various degrees. So it's really figuring out, like, what's your strength? You know, how can you, when you're at a challenge, how can you pull on those inner strengths that come natural to you? And it gets a little bit easier that way, like, if you can think of it that way. But it's not always so easy. It's not always this pretty, you know, oh, I have a challenge, like, I'm just going to fix it. Like, it's not all roses and butterflies. Like, there is some darkness.
Oh, absolutely. And you kind of, you know, sometimes you have to go through that darkness and those low points to realize, like, okay, I need to kind of make a change here. And
Absolutely.
I think, you know, and there's so much talked about, you know, oh, you just got to have a positive mind, you just got to be positive. But, you know, like you just hit on, you're not necessarily positive all the time. So when I'm trying to explore, you know, what it takes to go from victim to victorious entrepreneur, it's kind of cyclical. You know, we're going to have sort of high points and low points. You know, I don't think it's natural that you can be on a high all of the time. But I think, you know, it's important that, you know, I guess you've got to have some recognition that, okay, there's something that I want to change here, there's something that I want to fix, and then perhaps have a vision of what you want your life to look like, what the changes that you want to make. That's certainly how it's been in my case. It started with recognition that, you know, something needs to change, and then the vision. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think typically speaking, we're either moving towards a vision or we're trying to avoid pain.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, it's always like this anxiety is my thing. Like, I've had it my whole life. Like, it's sort of like that beacon that it sometimes is like to the extreme of like panic attacks, you know, to just general, like, I wonder if something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
And like, there's a full range, and we need anxiety. Like, it's an important, you know, tool. It keeps us alive. It gets us to the doctor. It helps us do good on tests. So I would never want to like get rid of it, but I have like a set point, you know, so I think it's for me, you know, and everybody's different, you know, it's, you know, how can I reduce, you know, and keep it at a manageable set point that I can cope. And that I notice when it's getting beyond that, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling it more. So something's going on with my coping. And that translates into business success too, because if my anxiety is too high, I'm not going to reach out to podcasts, or I'm going to say no to the invitations that come my way. I'm not going to show up at networking events. I'm not going to do public speaking. And these are my core marketing. Like, that's how I grow my business, or through these engagements. Yeah. And so if I am not, you know, working on, you know, keeping that anxiety. And I think, you know, to your question about the vision, I think the vision is, you know, what do I want my success to look like? But how can I keep keep that suffering to a minimum so I can actually show up?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you've talked about, obviously, you know, some of that adversity that you've been through, you know, with your seizures and, you know, the bullying and all of that, and that you went on to, you know, your career in social work. But how did that then evolve into the entrepreneurial journey that you're now on? You know, and what is it that you're doing now?
Yeah, so that came about when I had my first child.
Okay.
And I had, again, you know, there was like, that is a huge life transition. And my coping tools, you know, were not as great as I would have liked them to be initially. And I found mindfulness because of that anxiety. And so my first business was called Mindful Mommy. Because I wanted to teach everyone about the power of a mindful mindset, of, you know, having this idea of like, I can be present with what's happening now. I can fully accept it. Not that I'm like lying down and not making changes, but in this moment, you know, I can just feel, or I can just be present. And so I wanted to teach, you know, all moms this. So that's when I started my first business. And that was about 10 years ago when I opened my doors for that. And so I was, you know, offering therapy. I'm a clinical social worker. So I was, you know, teaching moms through therapy. You know, they would come in, or sometimes even, you know, teens would come through my door. And so, you know, that was, I think, you know, what I love about entrepreneurship is that creativity that you get to express through your work, which is, to me, it's very healing. You know, it's very empowering to, you know, see something that's in your mind come, you know, and become a creation. And so, you know, having that ability to do that through entrepreneurship is, you know, it's fun. It, you know, helps the family, but it also is really good for your mental health, I think, to have an outlet where you can share your gifts and, you know, your passions. And it's evolved so much since that time. Like, I think back and I had no idea what I was doing. I was working in the hospital at the same time as I was launching a business. I eventually got to the point where I could leave the hospital and just have my business, but it was a journey. You know, It wasn't always always pretty. And it was actually after my second daughter that I came to learn about something called human design, which is really the core tool that I use in my business today.
And what's that?
Human design, it takes your birthday time and place, and it can give you a chart that shows you your unique purpose, your strategy for decision making, where you might also get stuck in maybe, beliefs or behaviors that aren't serving you. It can help you with marketing decisions. It can help you in your parenting. It's really, I have found it to be just a great tool for really any area of your life, whether it's in your marriage or partnership or raising children or looking at your business. Like, you can really, take the information found in the chart and, use it across all different facets of, what's happening for you.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. And so that's what you help people with that now then?
I do, yeah. So that's one, it's just an additional tool, because I think we need it, as we get older, as we have more challenges in our life, we need to have a lot of different tools in our toolkit. Because, sometimes, understanding your human design will work. Sometimes you need to change your diet. Sometimes you need to add in different supplements or do a detox. There's no exact path to healing. We are all unique. And, understanding your human design helps you to understand your uniqueness so that, when things come up, you can say, oh, okay, I can rely back on this. This is just how I need to, make this decision. But it's not, I think there's plenty of other tools out there as well. So it's not the only one, but I just, in my life, it's just one of those things, when you find a tool or you find information and you're like, oh my gosh, and you just could study it all the time.
It sounds fascinating because I've actually never heard of that. So
okay.
Human design, did you say?
Yeah, it's human design. So if you want to get your chart, you just go to mybodygraph.com and click on free chart, and you can run your chart, or you can come to my website and I can run it for you. But you would need your birth, day, time, and place.
Okay. So you need
an accurate,
Yeah. You need your birth, day, time, and place.
Exactly.
What if you don't know the day?
So the time of day, sometimes it really matters. Sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the day. So the day that I was born, had I been born 2 minutes earlier, I would have been a totally different type. So you can generally run it a couple times if you don't know. And then you can see, okay, well, you might want to get someone to look at your chart and then ask you a couple questions, because they'll know what they're looking for. You can also, I love muscle testing, using a pendulum. You can work with a Vedic astrologer to help you get your time. There is hope if if your mom just never wrote it down or nobody knows, which is, that happens quite a bit. So adopted,
Yeah, exactly. And the reason that I was asking this is because it sounds awful. I don't remember, and I'm going to ask my mum what time I was born, and hopefully she will remember, but I don't actually remember the time of day that my children were born. And that sounds awful, because I actually had a brain hemorrhage, so I have got an excuse for not
Yes, absolutely, you have an excuse.
So that's why that question came into my head. But that sounds really fascinating. So if somebody was to go through this process of the human design and the chart that you mentioned, then what's the outcome of that then? What's the outcome and how does that help people?
Sure. So once you know your type, so that's the simplest place to start, is similar to how humans have these 4 different blood types. There are basically 4 core human design types. I divide, there's a type called the generator, that in my work and how I've been trained, we divide it into 2, which is a generator and a manifesting generator. But once you know your type, it's either going to be one of those generators, a manifestor, projector, or reflector. Then you will understand, how do you make decisions? Because making decisions that's what's really going to impact your life the most. really, is, do I decide to take this job? Do I decide to start a business? Do I invest in this coach? Do I work on, Facebook ads? Because as an entrepreneur, there are so many choices.
Yeah.
There are so many things that we can do. And what one person, one guru, one successful person has done, if your type is totally different from them and you're following everything that they're doing and you're not successful, it's probably just because your energy type needs to market differently. You need to have a different way of language, a different way of inviting people in to work with you. So my type is a projector. And once I learned that, I sort of, going back to those bullying days, I understood more why I didn't have the friendships like other people I was comparing myself to. Because projectors are not here for everyone. And not that everybody has to like everybody, but there's just something about this projector aura that they need to be invited and found by the right people. Right. And they do that by being themselves, by following their joy, by, following their passions. And what happens is when people come around that, their energy becomes magnetic to the right people. And you want to work with the right people. Like, you don't want to have a client list of people that like you dread getting on the phone with.
No.
You want people that see you, that value you, that, really, honor your work and, pay you well for the transformation that they're receiving by working with you.
Yeah.
And so every type has a different marketing tactic.
It's fascinating. Certainly that resonates with me. I don't know, obviously, what type I am because I haven't done your chart, but as soon as I've chatted to you, I'm going to but certainly for me, I feel the need to be very authentic, and I think a lot of female entrepreneurs fall into the trap of what are comparasitis, where you're comparing yourself to somebody else and trying to do what they're doing. And I think if you do that, then you kind of end up being completely inauthentic, don't you? You're not being yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're not attracting the right people. And you're not, I think when you're not staying true to yourself, then, of course your message is not going to get out there and you're not going to resonate with the right people. So, well, the other thing I think about with that is, I don't know if you're familiar with Lacey Phillips, but she's another coach and she's got a podcast, and she really talks about this idea of like expanders, and that there are people that are ahead of you, that they're sort of showing you like what's possible. And so I think like that's the gift of watching other people. And if they're doing something that you respond to with your human design strategy and it feels right for you, like it's okay to do it and make it better and make it your own. Yeah. It's not about like copying this, like just running this model, which is, I hear this a lot in the coaching world. It's like, my model is proven. Like, yes, for maybe 70% of people. Yeah. Right. Like it's never going to be proven for 100% of people. And that's because we are all unique. And, especially if you're a manifestor, projector, reflector, because generators make up about 70% of the population. So when I hear that, it's like, I automatically think of like, okay, this is the generator strategy. So if you're a generator and you're responding to it and that feels good for you and your body, then try it, go for it. If you're a projector, reflector, or manifestor, you have to operate a little bit differently, and that you're not beating yourself up. And, this is where it was really helpful for me, is that I stopped beating myself up, that I was following the system and it wasn't working. Yeah. I was doing what everybody said. And like when you're a therapist and connecting, like dropping my flyers off places, and it wasn't working. And so when I learned that I was a projector, it was like, breath of fresh air. Like, I could just exhale that, okay, I don't have to do this like other people. Like I don't have to follow this method.
I can co-create the method, based on what I love, based on coming from a place of joy.
Yeah.
And I think anything we do from a place of joy just tends to work better. And even if it's not successful, we got the joy.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah. So what's the difference between then like a generator and a projector and a manifestor, and I can't remember what the other one was. So could you give a quick snapshot of what these human designs are?
Of course. Yes. So generators, like I said, they're divided into manifesting generators and generators. So generators are about 33% of the population. 37% of the population. The manifesting generators are about 33%. So generators are here to find what they love to do. They need to find work or a hobby or parenting. There's lots of ways that we use our energy. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you're making money around. I think we get confused with that sometimes. Entrepreneurship could be through a job, but whatever it is, generators need to be turned on. Like they need to love what they do.
Yeah.
So the first place I look is like, how are you making your contribution and how are you using your energy? And their strategy and how to figure all that out is to respond. So rather than just having an idea and going and to do it, generators will experience more success when they have an idea, they wait, and they see what shows up in their outer reality for their body to either say like, yes, I want to do this, or I don't know, or no. And so it's really learning to tune in into what your body is guiding you to do rather than what your mind is telling you to do or want to love. Don't just begin to take steps forward if you're a generator. Wait, envision, see what could be possible, and then see what shows up in your outer reality, something on social media or a mailer or a friend says something. Generators, their aura is always drawing opportunities towards them. So it's like they're magnetic to things. So those are the generators.
Okay.
So the next type are projectors, and projectors are about 20% of the population. And projectors are not like generators. They are not here to work consistently. They don't have the time sacral that they have to burn out every single day. So projectors can take in generator energy and amplify it for periods of time, but it is not their own. And so what is going to protect the projector from burning out, which is, one of my passions is helping people through burnout, is they are going to wait for invitations. They're going to wait for recognition before they share their deep deep wisdom, because most projectors have done a lot of studying. They generally are those people that just like know stuff about everything. Like they're kind of like a jack of all trades, and that's sort of how I am. Like I have tons of trainings and certifications, and because I just want to be ready when I'm practiced. And I think maybe that's part of like my social work thing too. It's like I love taking a challenge and saying, okay, well, how can we figure this out? Like, what's the solution? And projectors are great at that. So if you love a projector, the best thing you can do is give them invitations. While generators, you want to give them things to respond to. Projectors, you're going to want to invite them, recognize them, see their gifts. And that makes them feel really, really good. So if you're a projector, you just want to wait for those right people who see you and share your voice, share your wisdom for those people. Always. Okay, so the next are manifestors. And manifestors are about 8% of the population. And manifestors are the only type. So this is really important. Only 8% of us can have an idea and just go try it. And those are the manifestors. However, they, like the projectors, generators do. So they can amplify it. They can have a lot of energy for short periods of time. but they really have to be careful with burnout, typically around the age of 45. For projectors, it's around the age of 40. That they begin to see some of this, fried systems, adrenal fatigue, or just, not having the energy like they used to.
Yeah.
And so the manifestor strategy is to inform people about what they're going to do. And so what that does is it helps them to, reduce the anger that they might experience in their life or have directed towards them, because they're sort of like a freight train. Like they are going down the track and people are waiting for them, and they're just, they're just going. So people waiting are like, what the heck? Like, we're standing here. You didn't see us? And so manifestors, what will help their relationships is to inform. And if you're in relationship with a manifestor, you want to inform them. So it sort of goes both ways for all the different strategies.
Yeah.
And manifestors, they're here to get the ball rolling. So like they can have and if we're all working together, like if you're an entrepreneur, you understand this. If you have a team, you run their charts, you'll see, okay, well, who's really, best suited for these different roles. And a manifestor, they're initiating. They don't know what's going to happen. So for them, there's no such thing as failure. Everything is like, let's try it, let's learn from it, let's move forward.
Yeah.
And having people, helping them to do the work is really, really important.
I love that.
The last type is the most rare. And there is no good or bad. These percentages I share because I think it's just helpful to understand how people are all working together. And if you're in a room, the percentages of people, but it's not better because there's fewer of them. That's not how this works. We're all unique, and within the chart, there are a billion different ways that things can play out. So, however you were born is exactly the type you were designed to be to fulfill your soul's purpose. So I just want to be very clear of that. And the reflectors are less than 1% of the population. And reflectors are here to reflect back the health of the community that they are living in. So, if I have a reflector come to me and they are really unhappy, I look at, well, who are they around? What is their community like? Where is the suffering in their community? And sometimes it means moving. Sometimes it means changing friend groups. Sometimes it means switching jobs. Because a lot of times it's just their environment. And so, that's really, powerful for a reflector to say oh my gosh, it's not me. Yeah. This is just, I can shift my environment. And of course we all have to work on our growth mindset and our resiliency, no matter what our type is. We all need to work on feeling that we're valued, that we can make good decisions, that we know how to understand and leverage our energy so that we have vitality for 100 years. So we all, no matter what our type, we're all kind of working on those things. Just having the awareness really helps to say, okay, well, how can I be successful and get through whatever this is? And I think once you can know that you can rely on yourself, that takes you really out of that victim mindset. It's okay, how can I tap into my inner resources and really understand myself to, have the success that I'm meant to? I think we're all meant to be successful.
Yeah, but I think a lot of us don't really know what it is necessarily that we're meant to be doing. And I think many of us get to certain ages or stages of our life where we really want to do something with meaning and find what our soul's purpose is, but we don't really know how to go about it. So this sounds like an amazing tool that they can go to your website to actually find this. I was just intrigued actually, obviously that we need to have your birth, did you say place and time?
Time, place, day.
And
because it's based on, we're floating in space right now. So when you're born, the planets are all aligned up in different ways. So we have the sun and the earth, which are the two important planets in terms of human design. That's most of our energy, blueprint is kind of coming from.
Yeah.
So we look at those two, but we also look at, before you were born, the 3 months before you're born, when the soul is said to come in. So we have this unconscious and conscious side that comes together to give us, our profile too, which is another layer of understanding the chart. I do, full day workshops and go over all of this stuff, because sometimes people, like, once they hear their human design, they get bit by the bug, and it's like, okay, I have to know everything. And so the person, like, I really strong, like, you can go down a rabbit hole, but the person that I trust with, absolutely, is Karen Curry Parker. She is really the only human design, expert person, like, I've studied under her. And she comes at it from a place of, like, how it's going to help you, expand and, be more of yourself, where, there are some other human design people out there that go a little too woo-woo for me, because I like science as a clinician. Like, I want to know, like, show me either a qualitative or for how this has helped people. And so I, typically will use stuff in my own life before I will feel comfortable sharing it with others, because in my chart, I have integrity all over it. And so it's really important for me and my sense of self-worth to stay in integrity with whatever I'm sharing. So, if you feel the bug, look to Karen Curry Parker. Her books, they're great.
I've literally never heard of it, so I'm fascinated by it, and I can see how, obviously, by understanding this, it can help you, in your business and personal life. But I was interested, like, can you, when you meet someone, even though you're meant to have the birth date, can you get a kind of instinct of, oh, that person is a reflector, or that person's a generator, or that person's a projector? Do you tend to know?
So I find that, this is my own experience, but I find that my best friends, like the people that I just feel like, not that I don't love and care for people that are not other projectors, but there's just something about when I come in contact with another projector, it's just like energetically ease. Where I love being around generators too, like their energy is, it's fun, and I don't have it consistently, so I can, I tap into that for a little bit. But there is just something like, my best friends have been other projectors, and I'm married to a manifester.
Married to a manifester, did you say?
A manifester. And my kids, I have 2 generators and 1 projector. And again, like, it's interesting because I find I have more energy to parent the generators because I'm amplifying their energy. But with me and my projector daughter, like, we could be together alone, if that makes any sense. Like, we can, like, sit together and I don't feel like I'm getting what we call conditioned by that energy. Because anywhere in the chart that we have openness, meaning that we're receiving information from others, it's where we can get conditioned and we think like, oh, we are this. So especially if you're like a projector raised by generators, like when you may be like the fastest working person in the room, but then you go to college and they're not around it anymore. And you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? What happened to, my energy?
So Jennifer, I was really interested in exploring more about healing for burnout, because I know that you've got like a free resource for the Victorious FM listeners on healing from burnout. So can we just explore that a little bit more as well, please?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing obviously is we understand your human design. So you get your human design chart, and I talk about in this free class, there's, the 5 different types. So similar to what we covered today, and how you can use that to make your health and well-being. Also, how you can figure out the type of support you need depending on your type. Depending on if you're projector, generator, there's going to be different needs in order to heal from burnout. And then I also include some tapping, which is EF, on what you need in terms of support. Because I think that's one of the big areas that we struggle with is we might know what we need, but we feel guilty about asking for it, or, you know, having that conversation or feeling vulnerable. We all sort of, you know, struggle with universally. And so it incorporates sort of, you know, my 3 favorite things in this free class, which I hope, you know, people find really helpful.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of this is very new to me, so I'm finding it fascinating. And you just mentioned tapping. Again, I don't know what that is. So
tapping. It's EFT. So tapping, it uses these meridian system, similar to acupuncture, but instead of using needles, we use pressure.
Right.
So we tap on the various, in the face, there are a lot of you know, ends to those meridians. And so when you tap on them, the idea is it opens up the flow of energy in the body. So it really can help to open up those systems and, you know, again, more self-awareness. Yeah.
It sounds like really, really fascinating. So if people want to find out more about you, how can they do that? How can they connect with you?
Sure. The best place is just to go to my website, which is www.themindfulfamily.com. You can get your free chart. You can join, I have a membership community called Thriving Mama Society, which really dives into human design a lot more.
Fantastic. I will make sure that we include all of those details in the show notes and over on the Victorious Entrepreneurs website as well.
Perfect.
I want to thank you so much for joining us today, awesome. Jennifer. I'm going to hop off. I'm going to go and check out your website to find out what my human design is, because I'm fascinated with that, and I will share it over on Instagram.
Yeah, can't wait.
I'll tag you in that as well. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much for
cool.
And just to mention again, so for our listeners to get the access to those resources, just to go to your website, is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep, it's all there.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today then, Jennifer. And I'll give you a tag on Instagram when I've figured out what my human design is. I can't wait to find out.
Awesome. I can't wait to. Okay. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Okay. Bye.
And to you, our wonderful Victorious FM listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as I have. Don't forget, if you want to find out more about Jennifer, please either check out the show notes or head over to victoriousentrepreneurs.com, where all of our podcast guests are featured on our website. Please also check out all of our amazing free resources to help you through each stage of starting, launching and growing your business. And don't forget to subscribe to Victorious FM on iTunes or Stitcher to make sure that you don't miss out on another inspiring episode. And finally, please come over and join our free community, Victorious Female Entrepreneurs, over on Facebook. I look forward to connecting with you in the group, but until next week, stay victorious.
You're listening to Victorious FM. Victorious Entrepreneurs, for women who are victorious in business and in life.